Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel at NDN TV Nigeria. Click on the subscribe button and be the first to get notifications.
In what appears to be a confirmation of the position of Senate President Ahmed Lawan that there are powerful forces within and outside the country working against the passage of the Petroleum Industry Bill (PIB), the just concluded public hearing on the bill at the House of Representatives witnessed a setback as factional host communities engage in a free-for-all in what is generally viewed as a sponsored event. Correspondent Chika Bodozie reports that the factionalization of the host communities of Nigeria producing oil and gas, HOSCOM, is part of a grand plan to stop the PIB.
By the grace of God, when we resume, we'll start work on the Petroleum Industry Bill. There are people both within and outside the country who will work against it. But it's going to be the strength of our patriotism to pass it.
Nigeria's Senate President, Ahmed Lawan, could not have been farther from the truth when last month he averred that there were attempts by powerful forces to kill the Petroleum Industry Bill. On day 2 of the just concluded public hearing at the House of Representatives, there was a curious disagreement between two factions of the host communities of Nigeria producing oil and gas, HOSCOM, over who should make presentation on behalf of the body. The disagreement, believed to have been orchestrated by the powerful forces the Senate President made reference to, had degenerated into violence as leaders of the rival factions engaged in a physical combat.
What I had been trying over the period of my tenure has been how to put them together and how to put them to have a common ground, but it's not been easy. But at the Senate, I was able to manage them well in a manner that one of them presented and the other could not present, but he submitted his memoranda. And I tried to do this when we came to the House, but I think it was still intractable. But by God's grace, I have an agreement, an understanding of three or four groups that they will meet with me in my office and they will now present a common position, which is the position that will be adopted as the House of Representatives and the Senate goes to the respective states to take their position.
It was also gathered that the fight between rival factions of HOSCOM was as a result of disagreements over the preferable percentage of equity shareholding to be reserved for host communities in the PIB. However, for discerning observers of proceedings during the public hearing organized by the House of Representatives, there's more to the fray than meets the eye, as the PIB has been the subject of deep-seated interest and intrigues long before this time. On close consideration of what transpired in the hallowed chamber of the National Assembly last week, people are beginning to ask some salient questions. Who could have motivated the disagreement that resulted in a fight at the public hearing? Was it orchestrated by some forces operating behind the scene to prevent host communities from speaking with one voice and deny them their demand for 10% equity shareholding in the PIB? One-time Secretary General of the Ijaw Youth's Council, Emmanuel Bristol, who describes the entire scenario as stage-managed, insists that the factional leaders of HOSCOM do not represent the interest of host communities in the Niger Delta.
It is not as though that they have the mandate of the oil-producing communities. They should have conducted themselves better.
In analyzing the situation, some civil society organizations present at the public hearing had come to the conclusion that the factionalization of HOSCOM was sponsored by interest groups in Nigeria's petroleum industry to create disharmony among host communities in the Niger Delta and shortchange them in the next phase of operations in the oil and gas industry. they had viewed with askance the decision by the ad hoc committee on PIB to prevent them and host communities from making oral presentations during the public hearing.
This public hearing was held based on two sets of regulations. In one breed, the chairman of the committee allowed the multinational companies, the government representative, and those they categorize as critical stakeholders to speak to their memo. But to now ask me, for example, some of us came from Lagos, from Akwa Ibom, and all over the country, to come here and just go and say, I adopt what I have already submitted. It is an injustice. It shows the level of disregard that this parliament has for host communities. So this is just a smokescreen. This is an attempt to deceive Nigerians that there was a public hearing.
For 20 years, passage of the PIB, which is intended to transform Nigeria's ailing petroleum industry, has witnessed a huge setback on account of sabotage by unseen powerful forces. Expectedly, most Nigerians would want to understand the logic behind the grand conspiracy against the PIB.
I think it's a problem of Nigerian politics. Everybody wants to have free access to the oil industry, oil and gas industry. Government uses it, those who are in power uses it to empower themselves and do whatever they want to do with it. And they feel that if you have the right laws, they won't have access to the oil and gas industry vote. I think that's the politics that is setting us back.
Fortunately, Nigeria's Senate President Ahmed Lawan has vowed that the 9th Assembly would stop at nothing to break the jinx in the delayed passage of the PIB. For their part, host communities are expected to quickly sink their differences and come up with common positions on various aspects of the PIB to get a better deal in the next phase of operations in the oil and gas industry. This line of action has become expedient considering the little time available to stakeholders to make Nigeria's long-awaited Petroleum Industry Act a reality by the end of the first quarter of 2021.
Inside the Niger Delta,